Hello, everyone, and yes, it is that time of year, the time of year for a year-end list. And, for me, that year-end list comes at the beginning of 2024. I definitely didn't make as many reviews or as many videos this past year, but I certainly listened to a lot of music and I watched some great movies. And yeah, I just want to go through and talk about my favorite stuff over the last year. So for this past year, I'm going to have a top 20 list of albums and then 15 honorable mentions. And then after that, I'll go through top 10 movies and then maybe just a handful of TV shows. But anyway, let's get started with the music. Let me start with just a run through of my 15 honorable mentions. These are just going to be in alphabetical order. We've got Aesop Rock's Integrated Tech Solutions, Amalu with I Came Home Late, Blockhead's The Aux, from Czarface, Artificial Intelligence. We've got Drake's Scary Hours 3. He billed it that way, but then it was just these 6 deluxe tracks. But I do think they deserve recognition on their own. From ST Knack, we've got Nacksaw Jim Duggan. From Mandy, Indiana, I've Seen a Way. Mitski's new album, The Land is Inhospitable and So Are We. From Paris, Texas, Mid-Air. Tizo Touchdowns, How Do You Sleep at Night. Travis Scott's Utopia. Wiley from Atlanta with Killing Time Before the Flood. Young Father's Heavy Heavy. Young Nudi's Gumbo, and last would be Zach Bryan with the self-titled album. And with this slightly different camera angle, it is time to get into my top 20 albums of the year. Of course, unlike the honorable mentions, these will be ranked, so let's get started. At number 20, I've got Daniel Caesar's Never Enough. My fiance is a huge fan of Daniel Caesar, and it's fair to say that I've gotten more into his music because of her, and she's been listening to this album pretty much nonstop this year. And honestly, I don't blame her. I don't like it as much. Obviously, it's coming in at number 20, but there's nothing too crazy about the album, but it's just a collection of great songs, and I don't know what more I could ask from somebody like him. Coming in at number 19 is Westside Gunn's And Then You Pray For Me. This is basically the spiritual sequel to Pray for Paris, and I feel like this one wasn't quite as well received, obviously because Westside Gunn went for kind of a trap sound on a lot of these songs, but I feel like he does pretty well on a lot of them. There are a couple that I don't think quite hit the mark, but the majority of the album is really solid. I have a great time with this one. Coming in at number 18, we've got New Blue Sun from Andre 3000. This, of course, is the ambient album that Andre 3000 decided to drop this year. I feel like that is the appropriate term for it. It's not just flute music. But yeah, this one is a great, peaceful listen from front to back. If you haven't listened to it, I'd highly recommend it while you're doing other things, whether that's studying or working or whatever. It's great music to soothe the soul in the background. At number 17, I have Mac DeMarco's One Wayne G. This album is not exactly an album, it's more of a compilation of years worth of demos. I was going to say this album is 4 hours long, but it's actually 9 hours. That 4 hours is just the tracks that I ended up enjoying and wanting to keep in a playlist. But yeah, this is a really cool sort of historical log of music that Mac DeMarco's made. It's mostly instrumental, and some of the songs are really impressive. He gets into different ambient stuff here and there too. It's pretty cool. At number 16, I have Back to Moon Beach from Kurt Vile. If you've watched my channel for a little while, you probably know that I'm a fan of Kurt Vile, and this is another good album from him. It feels like he's veering almost into country music a little bit with this one. And there's even a cover of a Christmas song, Must Be Santa, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, as usual, very reflective, meditative stuff from him. At number 15, I have Voir Dire from Earl Sweatshirt and the Alchemist.
I recollect all the pain I had to author.
As I said in my review of this one, this is a perfect pairing that I feel like we've been waiting for a long time. They just have very congruent styles. Production front to back is excellent. Earl Sweatshirt is, as usual, in great form rapping on it. It's just a really good project to listen to. At number 14, I have Lahai from Sampha. I know it's been a long time since Sampha dropped an album, and people were definitely anticipating this one. And I would be shocked if this didn't at least meet people's expectations, if not exceed it. A lot of exploratory stuff on here, and for the most part, it's like he's exploring his own mind, his identity, and yeah, I don't know, that's just kind of how Sampha is. It's very contemplative music, but a lot of the songwriting and song structures is really interesting and engaging, and yeah, this is a very, very solid album. At number 13, I have Maps from Billy Woods and Kenny Siegel. I feel like to not include some kind of Billy Woods mention, whether on an album list or a song list this year, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice because he's been all over the place this year. And of all the stuff that I've heard from him this year, Maps has definitely left the most impression. Billy sounds great and right at home on the dark and gritty production as usual. And yeah, this is a fantastic album. It's definitely one of the best rap albums of the year. At number 12, I've got Javelin from Sufjan Stevens.
I drink till it's lost.
I've been a big fan of Sufjan for a long time, and it feels great to have a solo project from him make my list. He's in classic Sufjan form on this one, very vulnerable. The production kind of dips into a lot of his work in the past. Some parts of it sound like Age of Ads, some of it sounds like Illinois. It's really, really a good one. If you're a fan of Sufjan, I'm sure you've already heard it. If you're not, you should definitely check this one out. All right, and at number 11, we've got Rat Saw God from Wednesday.
I got shots 'cause
This was a late entry for me. This was an album I just listened to for the first time as I was kind of catching up on things here at the end of the year. But yeah, this one's really special. Wednesday is a band from, I think, South Carolina, one of the Carolinas. And musically, this reminds me a bit of, I would say, Snail Mail, maybe a little bit of Frankie Cosmos. But the instrumentals are a bit heavier. The guitars are pretty distorted and pretty loud, but it works really well. The songwriting is excellent. A lot of lyrics on here that, even on a first listen, caught me in my tracks. And I was really impressed with this one. And I can't wait to hear more from Wednesday going forward. All right, now we are in the top 10. And coming in at number 10 is Quaranta from Danny Brown.
If I knew you, I would send you to the store. Pulled up.
You might remember that Danny Brown actually announced this album, I think for the first time, on the interview he did with me, which is really insane. I can't believe I'm saying that as just a fan of this guy's music. But this is obviously the 10 years later follow-up to Triple X, as now he's past 40 years old. And the music reflects that greatly, right? This is a lot more mature than I think we're used to hearing from Danny. And he's much more in his head and in his emotions than we're used to hearing. And I think he navigates it extremely well. Even amid all the self-reflection, there are still some bangers in here too. Great features, especially to Bruiser Wolf. Shout out to him. But yeah, this is a really solid album and such a cool progression to see in Danny's catalog. Next at number 9, from Cautious Clay, I have Carpe.
I need another half like I need you.
Now, Cautious Clay is an artist I was sort of familiar with. I think I just heard a hit or two back a couple years ago, but I did not know that he was making this kind of music. This album, I'm pretty sure I reviewed it and described it as anthropological jazz. It is a very jazzy album, and he's still got his R&B chops too. There's some songs where he sings, but yeah, the entire album is kind of exploring his lineage. It's such a unique listen. I can't think of another album I've heard that's quite like this one. And yeah, so much of it is enjoyable. I really love this one. Coming in at number 8, I've got Haunted Mountain from Buck Meek.
I knew the moment that I saw you.
If you don't know, Buck Meek is the lead guitarist from Big Thief, I believe. I'm sure he contributes to the songwriting there as well. But I don't know what it is. Why are the Big Thief artists so good when they do solo work too? I mean, Adrienne Lenker is incredible. And this is my first time listening to Buck Meek's solo work, and this album is also really good. Much more folksy than Big Thief, kind of veering into country folk territory. And I feel like he just provides backup vocals when he's in Big Thief, but he can really carry his own, and that shows on here. I would never wish for the band to break up, but I would like more solo projects from him and Adrienne Lenker. At number 7, I've got Let's Start Here from Lil Yachty. I don't think I've had a chance to really talk about Yachty on my channel before. And frankly, I've never really been a fan of him as a rapper. I just never got into his rap music like that. There have been a couple songs here and there, and I did like Poland from last year. But then this year he decides to put out an album, and it's not a rap album at all. He's kind of exploring psych rock, some R&B and funky stuff, and yeah, this album really works very well for me. There's so much on here that I do enjoy, and it was shocking at the beginning of the year to get this from Lil Yachty, and it's still shocking now to think that this is in my top 10 of the year, and it's from an artist that I've never really been into. I don't think that my opinions of him as a rapper have changed, and I feel like he's been saying a lot of outlandish stuff about how great he is as a rapper, which I don't think is true. But if he continues down this road and continues experimenting, I think he's got a lot of great music and great musical ideas in him, and this album definitely showcases that well. Coming in at number 6, I've got another late entry for the year. This is The Greater Wings from Julie Byrne. This is an artist I'd never heard of before. I think I saw this album, somebody listed it in their top albums or something. And yeah, this one kind of blew me away. If you remember a couple of years ago, I was really into that Cassandra Jenkins album, An Overview on Phenomenal Nature. This one reminds me of that album, but it's more ethereal and it's even more peaceful than that one. This is a very cool, I don't even know what genre this would be considered. I think you could make an argument that it's ambient. I think it's obviously got some folk elements to it as well. Again, I'm not a genre expert, but this one is definitely worth a listen. If you're in the mood for something peaceful, something meditative, this would be my number one recommendation for the year for sure. I know as soon as I say that, we get up to another meditative type of album, and this is at number 5, Burning Desire from Mike.
Mommy be in my thoughts, my body be in the talk.
Mike is a sort of underground, experimental kind of rapper in a similar vein as guys like Billy Woods and Earl Sweatshirt at this point too. And yeah, this is that kind of hip hop that is just really good to put you in a certain headspace. A lot of short tracks, very hypnotic, very relaxing, cool samples all over the place. If you're a fan of that kind of hip hop, another big example would be, like I said, Earl Sweatshirt, his Some Rap Songs. But yeah, if you're into that kind of heady, woozy hip hop that's gonna maybe put you in some kind of trance state, I really love this one. And shout out to this too. This is my album cover of the year. All right, coming in at number 4, I've got The Record from Boy Genius.
Imaginary friend.
I'm a big fan of Phoebe Bridgers, and when Boy Genius released their, I don't know if it was quite an album a couple years ago, I really liked that one too. And in the aftermath of that album and going forward, I've become a fan of Lucy Dacus as well and Julian Baker, so another Boy Genius project really hits the spot for me. As usual, these three are exceptional songwriters and they work really well together. I think you'd be hard pressed to find this kind of chemistry from any just 3 singer-songwriters that are out there. And their friendship really shines through in a lot of these songs. Not much more I can say about this one, but I'm also really excited to see that they got nominated for Grammy. I am rooting for them, and hype aside, the album is great. I really love this one. All right, this one is going to cause some controversy, but my number 3 album of the year is For All the Dogs from Drake. Now, I can already hear the collective groans coming from my audience, so I feel like I owe you guys an explanation, and I'm going to give that to you. It's no secret that I have been critical of Drake in the past, but I've also been a fan of Drake. If you've seen, I did a long video about Honestly Nevermind, and I kind of went into this there. A couple years ago now, he put out CLB, and I don't even want to say the full title because it's embarrassing. But my review of that was that he was like a Pokemon holding an Everstone and that he refused to evolve. I don't want to be so bold or presumptuous as to say that Drake saw my review, but I feel like everything that he has released since that album has been, in one way or another, compelling to me. Honestly, Nevermind, I really enjoyed. Her Loss had a lot of great songs too. And then For All the Dogs, this is maybe my favorite Drake album since Views. The other elephant in the room that I have to address with this album is that Drake is one of only 2 artists in existence where I have edited albums from them. The other, of course, is Kanye West. And with Kanye, when he releases albums that are unfinished and kind of demand work, I was willing to work on those. I did it with Life of Pablo and I did it with Donda. Those are the only 2. With Drake, it's a little different. Starting with Views, because Views is an album I really loved, but Views was too long to fit on a CD, and I wanted to put it on a CD, so I had to edit it for time. There's no way around that. When I'm trying to put it on a CD, I have to edit it. And coincidentally, pretty much every album after Views, I just didn't like that much, so rather than editing the albums, I would just pull out the songs that I liked, which was usually just a handful, maybe 3, 4, or 5, little EPs worth. Post CLB, Honestly Nevermind, I liked the whole album. Her Loss, I liked about half of it, which I think was 8 songs. And then here, this one, For All the Dogs, it is empirically too long. It is, once again, too long to fit on a CD. So if I want to do that, I have to edit for time. I did make a playlist that's up on Apple Music and Spotify that is sort of my version of the album. But I want to be clear, I didn't really edit this in the same way that I did with those Kanye projects because I don't touch the sequencing or anything. I just kind of cut out the songs that I would otherwise skip or don't really want to listen to. My version of For All the Dogs, if you will, I want to say is 16 tracks. So I cut out maybe 7. There's only a couple early on that I don't like. I think the 21 Savage song isn't good. And then after 8 a.m. in Charlotte, I just cut the rest of the album. And it's not like those songs are all bad. It's just that I think 8 a.m. in Charlotte is such a strong finish for this album. So just cutting out those handful of songs, it's 55 minutes. And it's still, those 55 minutes, all those songs I really enjoy. And I know that there are going to be people saying, how can you rate an album that you did some work on or that you edited in some way as one of your favorites of the year? Well, I went back and listened to the album with the songs that I excluded, and I think I would still put it in my top 10. It might be a little lower if I had to include those, But the other reality is that I've listened to this one more than just about everything else that I've talked about so far. I just really, really like what he's given us on this one. I feel like this album showcases a lot of his best talents. There are some great singing songs on here, and there's some great rapping songs. And then when he released that deluxe with more songs, those were truly some of the best rap songs he's ever made. I'm genuinely shocked because I can't think of the last time I would have had a Drake album this high in a year-end list. I wouldn't say that it's as good as an album like Views or as good as Nothing Was the Same, but it's truly next in line, I think, after those two, and maybe Take Care as well. And then, yeah, he releases a deluxe, which is just 6 more tracks, and it's 6 of the best rap songs he's ever made. And I don't even think I can tack those on to the end of this album, because then I would again have to edit for time. Drake definitely has a problem when it comes to making albums that are too long. This is only the second Drake album where I would say that I love it, minus a few songs. And I don't think the fact that I would skip those songs diminishes my enjoyment. But yeah, whether I listen to the entire album and not pay attention to or skip the songs that I don't like, or if I listen to 55 minutes or 16 of the 23 songs and really love it front to back, yeah, this is one of my favorites of the year. All right, and now we are in top 2 territory, and my number 2 album of the year is Lana Del Rey. Did you know that there's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard? I've been a fan of Lana since Born to Die, and I still really love that album. For years and years, I would have said that Born to Die is her best album. This is the first one to change that for me. And it's really cool to see how far she's come in a little over 10 years. It's kind of like seeing the progression of Danny Brown from Triple X to Quaranta. We've got Lana Del Rey going from Born to Die to this. This is another one produced by Jack Antonoff, and I feel like she does an excellent job on that kind of production, and they work really well together. These songs have sort of an air and mystique to them that it hits like nothing else that I've heard from her. And it's a long album, but it is worth the experience from front to back because there's just so much life stuffed into this one. I'm pretty sure she's nominated for a bunch of Grammys, and I would love to see her win those just because this album really is that special. This will probably end up in my favorites of the decade. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see if and when she can put out something that I enjoy more than this one. But I think I would have said that about Born to Die for the last 10 years. So I'm looking forward to see when it might happen next. If you haven't listened to this one, please do yourself a favor, check it out. And now my number 1 album of the year, which might not come as a surprise to anybody. It is Scaring the Hoes from JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown. Obviously, I'm a fan of both JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown. And the combination of those two, it's hard to say I wouldn't have predicted it'd be this good because I know that they're both exceptionally talented. But Danny Brown sounds perfect on JPEG Mafia production. And he and JPEG go back and forth on all these songs, and it just sounds really excellent, really energized. This is maybe one of the wildest first listens that I had all year, and this is also probably my most listened album for the entire year. I threw this thing on front to back all the time. I just think the production is so interesting, and both of these guys are interesting rappers and vocalists, and to hear them go back and forth on music this exciting and this strange, it just makes for a really great experience. They're obviously pushing boundaries and trying different genres and subgenres, and a lot of that I guess you could credit JPEG Mafia on the production. But Danny really brings the heat too with his rapping and even singing on some of the songs. Like Orange Juice Jones is one of my favorites, and Danny singing on that one is just awesome. There's obviously been a lot of great music this year, but nothing that I have come back to as consistently and as aggressively as this album. And album of the year, absolutely deserved for these guys. And as a final note, I think this was called Scaring the Hoes Volume 1. So if they've got more music, I know they put out an EP this year as well, but if they've got another album's worth of this, or if they want to keep working together, please, I will take whatever I can get from this. Also, I should have addressed this at the beginning of this video, but I'm just coming off a cold, so if I look or sound a little out of it, that would be why. But anyway, those are albums of the year. And now going on to my favorite tracks or songs of the year. Every year I do a playlist of 100 songs. I'm going to link a YouTube version with this video as well as links to that on Spotify and Apple Music. I'll just give you a sampling here. I'll give you just a taste of what to expect from that playlist.
This ain't what you want. No, this ain't what you want.
Feels like family.
I told her my name is Sam. She said no, the one on your birth certificate.
We the little baby said him, told the preacher I'm never finished, that's to say the least. Will anybody ever love me?
It's It's weighing heavy on my moral scale, knowing they gon' sell another Citizen Kane.
Maybe they wanted to be a boxer until they found out that they couldn't fight.
I just had a dream I was dead, and I only cared 'cause I was taken from you.
All right, and to wrap things up for those who chose to stick around, let me go over my favorite movies, shows, and some video games this year. So my top 10 movies of the year, starting at number 10, I've got Past Lives, Infinity Pool, The Creator, Barbie, Iron Claw. Number 5, The Boy and the Heron. Number 4, Asteroid City. Number 3, Killers of the Flower Moon. Number 2, Oppenheimer. And number 1, Poor Things. Hey guys, editor version of Rough Criminal here. In the time that's passed since I recorded this video, I watched Beau is Afraid from Ari Aster, and that's a fantastic movie. I'm gonna have to insert that one here at probably number 3, so everything else would shift down one. I don't watch a lot of TV shows, but here's what I've really enjoyed this year. The Curse from Nathan Fielder, Blue Eye Samurai, which is a Netflix anime, Beef, which is another Netflix show, miniseries I think. Jury Duty was great. And I still have to watch the new seasons of Invincible. I'm waiting until the full thing comes out to watch that second season. And then I'm about halfway through the new season of The Bear. I really love that show too. And lastly, video games, which is honestly what I spend a lot of my time doing. Starfield was a big one. It's not a perfect game, but I really enjoyed that, and I love exploring space, so I've been having a lot of fun with that one. It's been a big year for me on Fortnite. We had an OG season, which was fun, and then they just introduced a Lego Fortnite mode. They've got a music festival mode, which is basically Guitar Hero, and then the racing mode, which is sort of a crossover with Rocket League. There's a lot going on in Fortnite now, but I feel like they've stuck the landing on it pretty well. I'm excited to see how all this stuff pans out. And then lastly, you might be aware that the big game of the year was Baldur's Gate 3, and I got into that one pretty recently. I'm an Xbox player, and that just got ported to Xbox actually the night that they won Game of the Year. So I've been playing that a lot since then, and I really love that. As somebody who has played Dungeons & Dragons, it's a fantastic video game version of that. Can't wait to sink hundreds of hours into that game too. So yeah, that's 2023 for you. Thank you guys for sticking around with my channel. I've obviously not been very consistent this past year. Like I said in other videos, I moved, just have a lot going on in my life, but you know what? When I have things to talk about, when I've got things to share with you guys, I want to do that. I don't want to make any promises I can't keep, but I want to come through with some more 10-second reviews and keep the momentum going a little bit next year. And then I've got to cap off my favorite albums of the 2010s list. So look forward to that this year. And then, yeah, we'll try to keep the ball rolling where we can, where inspiration strikes me. Thank you guys. I hope you had a great holiday season. And here's to 2024.